All right, good evening. Welcome everybody to our live stream this evening. As you can see, those that have joined us before, or if you watched one of our recorded sessions from our live streams, I've got a little bit different setup tonight. A little bit out here, and yeah, I think we're gonna have some fun tonight. We're gonna talk about some rope management tonight. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Excited to have you here. My name is Jared Hillhouse. So I'm one of the owners of Northwash Outfitters. I've been guiding and instructing canyoneering specifically for well over a decade now, and work also with search and rescue. And I just love rope work, love the outdoors, love rigging and whatnot. So as you can see right down there, you have my Northwash Outfitters Twitter handle, and throw out a little competition as we do every week. So those that hit the share button on this and share it to Twitter, tagging Northwash in there and using that tag or hashtag Canyon Chat, we'll enter you into a little drawing by the end of the night for a Northwash Outfitters swag bag. So some hats, some stickers, and whatnot. So excited to have you here. Hope you join us on our social media and follow us along there. Also, if you're new to the stream, please don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon so that you have notifications next time we go live and have this discussion. I love hitting you up and discussing outdoors and canyoneering and whatnot with you. So do that for us. So I'm going to get rid of this here for a minute. And I'm going to stand up for most today. So instead of having the couch here, we're going to kind of get a little bit more physical activity in this segment tonight. So as you notice, I was wearing my harness, and it's going to come into play here in a little bit. Session's not sponsored. Show is not sponsored at all, so everything that I'm going to discuss here tonight is my own thoughts, feelings, opinions about any of the gear. I am not being paid by anybody to do this. No gear, equipment sponsorships. So I'm just throw that out so you know ahead of time that I'm not paid for anything. I've got a little bit different setup tonight again, as I mentioned. I am kind of looking down here a little bit and back up at you guys. I've got a screen down here and the chat session opened up. So if you guys have any questions or want to jump into the chat and hit me up with some questions, comments, whatnot, go for it. And I'll just kind of look down here periodically and check on that when my brain thought process dries up a little bit and looking for a segment transition. But yeah, I'm glad to have you here with us. Let's talk about some rope management. So one of the first things that we're going to discuss really is kind of the construction of the ropes and how a rope is built. And it's kind of a unique little fashion. When everybody talks about a rope, it's not like the standard rope that you're going to go down to your hardware store and buy. It's not the twisted, braided kind of rope that we use for outdoor recreation, canyoneering, rock climbing, search and rescue rigging, that kind of stuff. Technical rigging, if you're looking at movie shoots and those kind of things, safety rigging. It's not the braided 3-strand rope that you're used to seeing down at the hardware store. This rope is kind of a special blend and build of a few things. The first thing that you're going to, well, there's a term that's out there called kern mantle. And it's kind of the name for the rope. And as you can see here, the kern, as it's taken, we'll break this up here in a sec, but kern mantle, kern is referring to the core of that rope. That's what that's designed to do. And a couple examples here. If you take this and look at it, this is kind of what a standard rope is going to look like. For rock climbing, canyoneering, rappelling, that kind of stuff. This is what your basic standard rope is going to look like. And this white piece right here in the center, this is your core or your kern. And that is where your strength comes from on that rope. That is what is literally holding you up when you're on that rope, is that kern. Now what's this orange and red piece then? Well, that's the second part of this rope, and that's going to be the mantle or the sheath. That has well, I generally say it has absolutely no holding power whatsoever, but it's going to have some. I mean, any little strand of cordage and or braid, weave, rope, whatever is going to have some holding power, but you're not deriving your strength from that sheath. All your strength is coming out of that core that's right in there. That kern is where your strength is going to be coming from. Now the sheath does play an important part in here. The sheath actually is there and designed to protect the center, the core, the strength part of that. That sheath is designed to hold everything in place as well as protect that rope from being shredded up. Now you'll hear some manufacturers out there, I believe Blue Water's one that makes one, and this is an Imlay Canyon Gear rope that I'm holding here. This is the 8.3 Canyon Fire. They're made out of what's called they make a DS rope or a dual sheath. And that basically means that instead of just one layer of sheath wrapped around that core, you've actually got 2 layers wrapped around there for protection. So it's going to last a lot longer. Your rope's going to be a lot stronger in that it's, well, I guess not stronger again because we're talking about the sheath, but it's going to make the rope last longer. It's going to not be worn out a lot. Some of the things that you're going to look at, swap this out here, to talk about rope damage and why we talk about single versus dual sheath ropes is basically the more your rope in one spot wears over something, it damages that sheath, that mantle around that rope. And the quicker that rope is damaged, the quicker that sheath is damaged, it's going to expose that white center core in there. And once that core is exposed, you've lost all of your safety factors in that rope. Because now that core can start getting shredded, can start getting cut and destroyed, especially out here, North Wash, Cedar Mesa area and whatnot. We got a lot of sandstone and it just abrades that like crazy. Granite is a little bit smoother. Sometimes granite doesn't cut quite as much, but I know some of the canyons out in like Ouray, it's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. I've heard of some of those canyons that have some pretty sharp rock that can slice through the rope. So that's where that sheath comes into play in making sure that you can protect your rope for very long. So I love the dual sheath ropes. Makes my rope last a lot longer in that regards. So that's kind of the makeup and how your rope is built. Now let's talk about the other part of rope construction, or the way that a rope is made. And there's 2 different styles, I guess, if you want to call them that, of rope when you go to the store and you're looking at picking out a rope for your various activity. The first one is called a dynamic rope. Okay, now all dynamic means is it's a fancy word for, it means your rope is going to stretch. Why is that important? Why would you want to get a rope that stretches? Well, you may not want to get a rope that stretches. Depends on what your activity is. A rope that stretches is more or less designed for rock climbers. You might use it in some movie shoots, technical rigging, where there's a lot of movement. The term dynamic means movement. And it's designed so that when a rock climber is up on a ledge, or on the face or something, and your belayer is below you, if that climber falls and hits their protection point, that rope is going to kind of stretch a little bit and ease off some of the tension of both the belayer, the anchor, and the rock climber as he's falling. So it acts kind of like a bungee cord and a shock absorber to get some relief and stress out of the system. Now, when we're out canyoneering and when we're doing rope rescues and search and rescue stuff, we don't need that stretch in our ropes. We don't need to have that factor in there, because every time we get on a rope, we're going to already load it. The rock climber, when they're up, they're not loading their rope until they fall, and that force is what requires them to need that dynamic stretch. But when we're out, we're already loading. We're setting on the edge, loading that rope before we rappel over, and for that, we need a static rope. Okay? The static rope means no stretch whatsoever. Well, that's the general basics. There's going to be some stretch. If you look at some manufacturers, they actually put in their static ropes and they say minimal stretch or 10% elongation or stretch. So some of them still stretch a little bit. The MANTLE Canyon Gear ropes, I'm trying to think if they say specifically in there, but I don't think I've seen a lot of stretch in their ropes. Blue Water too. Those are the two brands I use the most. I don't feel like they've had any stretch in them to the factor that I have. But the static rope, the zero stretch in there is what's going to be used for canyoneering. And again, if you're into the search and rescue field, that factor and whatnot. So that's what's important there. Basically, you get on that rope, you put your weight in it, and it's loaded. No need to stretch whatsoever. So that's what those ropes are for. Now, there's a couple of different styles or different sizes of ropes that you can look at getting. And when you look at ropes and the size, and I'm gonna make a note to my cameraman really quick that I'm gonna just put up a couple notes on the board before we move on, because I'm thinking about it. So hence a good little whiteboard in case my thought process runs here. Couple of different sizes of ropes for canyoneering that you can find. That's why I tried very rarely to write. Canyoneering system, you're going to look maybe at an 8mm rope as your baseline, your low end for some of those of you that are a little bit more experienced and looking for a little bit lighter rope to carry. I say more experience because it definitely takes, to get down onto an 8mm rope, it takes some experience and skill on how to set up a rappel and adjust your friction. But canyoneering ropes run between 8 to about a 9.2mm in diameter rope. And I know that's kind of hard to see there, looking at that. Let's see. 8mm to about a 9.2mm. Try and get that a little bit bigger. Still kind of hard with that 9. My writing is a little bit light there. Anyway, those are the basic diameters you're going to find for canyoneering rope. Anywhere between an 8 to a 9.2mm is standard. And I like to encourage beginning canyoneers to get into that 9mm range, just because you're going to have a little bit more control and be able to feel the rope better and adjust your rappel speeds. So, that quick little side note. Now, in rope management and rope care, kind of a couple of things I wanted to discuss with you tonight is a little bit about how to package your rope and how to care or carry it with you, how to take it along in the canyons or out on the cliff or whatever, wherever you're going with that. And to do that, there's kind of 3 different basic packs, wraps, whatever you want to call them, that you can use. The first one I want to show you is called the Mountaineer's Coil. It's going to be kind of one of the basic coils that you can use to wrap up your rope. And I'm going to grab this rope right here. Again, an 8.3 millimeter Imlay Canyon Gear rope. And to do a coil, a mountaineer's coil, it's going to be simply a matter of making as big a coils as you want. You can make small coils, large coils, medium coils, whatever your heart desires. I prefer big coils and almost to the length of my arm stretch here. That kind of gives me the best scenario for setup. I'm going to start with that rope in my hand, just a little bit of tail in there, and then it's just a matter of arm stretch and coil and making that loop there. And you just do that over and over and over and over. The tricky part, the next big key, is going to be when we finish this tie off, this coil off here. Now, one of the nice things about packaging, bagging, coiling a rope, whatever you do with it, is while you're doing it, this gives you an opportunity to inspect your rope. This is a really good time. Anytime you have your hands on a rope, take that, inspect it, put your hands through it, and you can feel for bumps, abrasions, bad spots in that rope. You can just keep checking that. So as I'm running that rope through my hands, I'm just kind of checking that each time it runs through. Hand closed, rope across, fill in for any spots. Now we're getting down to about the end here. About 2 more arm lengths here. Last arm length. And now I've got that stretch left there. And that's going to be a full arm length with a short little tail. Its tail's not quite as long as I need to finish this off. So I'm going to drop that whole length back off. And then I'm going to work with that length as my tie off. So to do this tie off, I'm going to come in here a little bit closer. To this tie off, I'm going to take that tail before it comes down. I'm going to make a loop right in there. Okay. Hold that up so you can see it there. Now with this rest of it, I'm going to start wrapping around this whole coil, and I'm going to pull that tight. And I'm going to wrap a good chunk around this all the way. Now I'm starting back away from this loop that I made, and I'm going to wrap towards, getting that out of the frame, wrap that towards that loop again. And once I get a few in there, I can kind of let go of my other hand and use it to help me there. Wrapping all the way back up towards that loop. And that actually is going to turn out to be quite a perfect amount of rope right there that I'm going to end up with. Give me a good solid bunch there. Now, before I get too far down, I am going to take that tail and feed it into that loop right there. Now here comes a little bit of a tricky part, because I got to play guessing game at this point, because I need to find the back end of that loop that I created. So I'm going to just start, oh, I got it, first try, nice. I'm going to start pulling on that, and it's going to cinch that loop right up against, and I just forgot which one I was pulling on, right up against that whole system right there. And I'm going to cinch that down as tight as I can get it. Okay, so now that's butted that tail right up in through that loop and up against the rest of those coils that I made. That's the Mountaineer's coil. Kind of open it up a little bit. And what this allows me to do is, if I want, I can throw that right over my shoulder and off I go. Hiking right down the canyon. Now I don't do this. I do this one a lot, but I don't do it for my main ropes. I oftentimes carry a backup rope when I'm hiking a canyon. good 50-foot rope or something, and I will frequently do that mountaineer's coil with that, throw it over my shoulder like that, and that allows me to have a quick 50-foot rope handy that I'm able to use for a quick rescue, a quick throw rope, hand line, whatever. And I use that quite often. So don't use that very often for a main line anymore. But that's the mountaineer's coil with a 120-foot rope. All right. Next one we're going to talk about is called a butterfly coil or a backpack coil. This one can be used interchangeably as far as names go. And I've used this one in the past quite frequently, but not so much anymore. But it's been a really good rope system for me. For this one, I generally use a lot longer rope for this. So I've got a 200-foot rope here. And with this 200-foot rope, I've gone ahead and, just for time's sake, I've flaked this out and pulled the two rope ends together. And that's where I'm going to start with. Now, I'm going to take those two ropes together. Again, I work in arm's lengths, and stretch that out. 1, 2 arm lengths, 3 arm lengths, right there. Now from this point, it's just a matter of making those butterfly coils, as again the name indicates. I've got 3 arm lengths of loose rope over here, and I'm going to take the majority, the main rest of the rope, and again, should have packed this on the other side, it looks like, because I'm off hands here. Let's see if I can do this left-handed. So I'm going to take that coil, both arms, and I'm going to lay that across my hand. So here's our loose tails, the 3 lengths that I created. Now I'm going to create another bite on the other side. So as you can see, I hope, I've got 2 loops that are starting to get created on each side of my arm. And if I come in here a little bit closer, get the camera angled down a little bit, you can kind of see my hands as I do this back and forth. So hands out, arm's length, 1 bite on that side of my hand. Again, keeping the 2 ropes together. 1 bite on the opposite side of my hand. 1 bite on this side. 1 bite on the opposite side. So I'm just flaking it back and forth on the different sides of my hand as I come out across there. And I can tell that as I'm pulling this rope up, it's hitting my mic, so I hope that's not flicking any sound or volume there. But we're just going to go back and forth across. 200 feet gets to be a lot of rope. Again, it should only be about 100 feet I'm pulling because I've doubled the rope. Now see, I'm stretching through. There's kind of a gnarly piece of my rope there. I can feel it. It gives me a chance to check my rope and see what's going on there. No core shot, no core visible, okay. I've got a little bit of a bunching there. Come through, flake back across. And I'm going to start losing that. Readjust. And there's the last loop in there. Okay, now with this last loop, let me switch hands here. This last loop, as you can see, hangs down a little bit lower. And that works out really well for the fact that now if I ever need to find the middle of the rope, that's the one that's going to be out just a little bit longer than everything else, so I know where the middle of the rope is. Okay, now how do I finish this off? Well, I'm going to come back and find those 3 arm lengths of extra rope that I packed on the side before we started, that's going to be my tie off. So I'm going to take that rope, and these first couple get kind of messy. Wrap those around. Come on, work with me here. Wrap. And you just kind of have to get used to figuring out how many wraps again you're going to need based on 3 arms lengths that you pulled, because I don't want to use the whole thing. I'm going to go one more and finish that off. Now to finish that, I can do one of 2 things. I'm going to push that rope just a bite. If you don't know what a bite is, come join our Technical Canyoneering course in a couple months. We'll talk about bites. But no, a bite of rope is just a loop. So I'm going to take that bite of rope through there, and I'm going to wrap it back over the top of that bundle. Again, cinch it down. And that gives me my butterfly coil. What this is going to allow me to do now, to carry it, I can either stick that on top of my pack and carry it, but I've got this extra length of 2 tails here, what it's ideally designed for, hence the backpack coil. So now I can throw that rope right on my back, and I've got 2 tails here. This is going to be embarrassing. Let's see if I can get this. Reach around my back. Swap hands. I got one. Okay, got them both. Right around, just wrap it off in the back there. Bring it around. Tie it off. Now I can take off hiking just with that. Try and get as much of that bottom loop in there as you can, just because that kind of helps hold it to your back and keeps it together. Butts it up into your head a little bit, but that's the backpack butterfly coil. Another way to carry your rope. Now, we're going to take a quick commercial break because looking at our time, I know my camera's going to shut off in just a second, so we're going to reset the camera and I'll be right back in about 5 seconds. Ha! All right. I don't know why, even I turned the timeout shut off on that, and if you've seen our last few feeds, that camera shuts off on me after 30 minutes. Dang tax imports. Can't get a DSLR camera that'll run video for more than 30 minutes. All right. Oh, that one got me sweaty. So those are the 2, Mountaineer's coil and the backpack coil. Now, I don't use the backpack coil anymore because you can see that it was kind of a hassle there, a little bit of a mess. It works, it's great, but when it comes down to efficiency in a canyon and travel and speed, when you're doing single rope rappelling and canyoneering, it's nice and easy just to have one end of the rope available. And that's where the rope bag comes into play. I'm going to be using a rope bag a lot because then I can get that one end of the rope out that I need and just use the one end. I don't have to use the whole rope. Like the Mountaineer's coil, the butterfly pack, in order to use those, you've got to use and deploy the whole rope, either double strand rappelling, or you're just uncoiling a whole rope for a 10-foot rappel, and it's kind of a waste. So let Sorry, I just got a text message from a friend who says he was watching the show. So thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. All right, I am a big fan of rope bags. Love rope bags. Again, like I said, because I can use one end of the rope as I need to. I don't have to deploy the whole rope, especially if I've got a 200-foot rope and I'm doing 10, 20, 30-foot rappels. Having to uncoil that whole 200-foot rope is kind of a pain in the rear. So with this rope bag, I'm going to show you how to bag this. And we're going to take this Mountaineer's coil that we did and bag it back up, because that's actually the bag it came out of for this demo. Now, every safe canyoneer and rope technician should have their helmet on. So in order to be safe, I am going to put my helmet on. Actually, it works really well when you're packing a rope, so you'll see. Now, the reason I put my harness on also is for my rope bag. I always carry my rappel device completely attached and ready to go right on my right in my rappel loop, my belay loop, or in the straps, as you can see. I always tell students, once you're in your harness, once you're moving, your rappel device should stay right there. Unless there's some extreme emergency, even ascending a rope, your rappel device should be right there, because if you ever have to switch over from an ascend to a rappel midway, it's ready to go. I always encourage that rappel device to stay attached right to your harness. And it comes into play again, you get off a rappel, you leave everything attached. The critter works really nice for adjusting friction on single ropes. But now I can take my rope bag and just attach it right to that carabiner that my rope bag is attached, or that my rappel device is in. So I've got a quick, convenient spot to attach that bag to. Let's take this Mountaineer's coil and undo it, and see how big a tangled mess it's going to be. Anybody got any questions so far? Comments? Everybody hearing everything okay? Right, there's the end of the Mountaineer's coil. I'm going to drop that, and it is going to be a mess pulling that out. Most rope bags are designed with tie-in points. These are no exceptions. It's always a good idea to take the rope end that's going into the bag and attach it directly to that bag inside, so that if for some reason you deploy all the rope out of the bag, that rope is attached and you don't lose your bag, especially in Class C wet canyons with flowing water. Kind of a good deal. I don't ever find anything necessary to do more than just a quick overhand in there, and it works just fine. Drop that back into the bottom of the bag. And now my rope is securely attached in that bag. I'm going to take a carabiner here now and attach it. Oops, drop that rope. I'm going to attach this rope, this carabiner, right into the chin strap of my helmet. Take that rope, and this is going to get in the way of that mic again, so sorry. I'm going to take that rope right up through that carabiner. It's always a much easier way to bag a rope, or bag anything for that matter, if one, that bag opening can stay open, so you're not fighting that, and two, if you're bagging with a pull down motion. With search and rescue, a lot of times we'll see guys that'll throw the ropes over their shoulders and try and bag it that way. But that rope just ends up feeding right off the shoulder after a few pulls. It doesn't work out real well. So this is a really good technique, and I can bag a rope in pretty much no time flat. As long as this this coil is probably going to come up a little becluttered, just because the coils do that. So it's not going to be quite as fast as usual, but here we go. Let's just stuff this rope right in that bag. Couple tangles, pull those out. A lot quicker, faster, and more convenient when you're talking about rope management and rope care. Again, as my hands are doing this, I can slide them up and down and feel for any rope damage if I need to. I hope that when you're rappelling down the rope, you can also be looking at that rope and make notice of any wear and tear on that. Again, pause for a sec, stuff that in. Here comes the end. Okay. Now, one thing I've seen people do is they're getting going so fast, they pull this rope through and that end flicks them in the face. So just once you see the end coming, just kind of slow down a little bit, take it up, and there. Now, this end of the rope is a key critical point where you don't want to just drop that into the bag. One, if that end of that rope gets into that bag and mixes itself up in there, it could cause a lot of tangles in there. And two, if I'm getting on the edge of a canyon and I want to drop in, I need to grab that rope end anyways. So why not have it available? So I always just take that rope end, and again, just a quick overhand knot right on the handle there. And that's it. Quick, efficient, easy way to bag and manage your rope that way. Don't forget to remove carabiner from your chin strap, because you're bound to get made fun of by all your friends. Nah, hopefully you got good friends that you're going out with. But quick, easy way. Rope bags are fantastic. Love them. From here, I've taken canyons where I can just pack it over my shoulder. If we're going on long hikes in, sometimes I'll attach it to my pack this way. And if we're going through a really tight canyon, narrow canyon, sometimes I can just take it now and toss it down the canyon. I don't have to have anything in my hands if need be. Take that rope bag and toss it back and forth to your friends, and share the load a little bit, share the love, pass it back and forth, and you can throw it around. Now, a couple things to keep in mind when you're talking a little bit about rope care again. I'm oftentimes asked about washing a rope, and it's the last thing I really want to make mention of. Let me dump the helmet there. Whoop. Like that. One last thing, again, talking about cleaning your rope. I found in the most recent years I don't do a lot of rope cleaning, because if you get into a canyon that has water in it, just dump your rope in the water, and it kind of washes itself and works it out that way. It takes care of it where you don't really need to worry about it. If you do need to wash it, don't use any harsh chemicals, soaps and detergents and stuff. Sometimes you can use a little bit of dish soap, something soft and good for, not chemically based, I guess. Dish soap I've heard of, and fabric softener I've heard of being used. Thanks. My Amanda's in the back mouthing that to me. So those two things. And I've taken it where I've coiled it up into a big electrician's coil, which I didn't show you tonight, but you can find places on that online, I'm sure. Do a big electrician's coil, and I've thrown it into the washing machine, a top-load washing machine that way, and haven't had any issues. Most generally, though, if I need to, I'll just throw it in the bathtub, use cold water, and just kind of swirl it around in the bathtub. Sometimes I've gotten in and stepped on it and agitated it with my feet and cleaned it up that way. But most of the times, if you're getting into canyons that have some water in it, your rope's probably going to get a little muddy. So just drop it in the pothole, get it wet in there, and kind of swish it around and clean it up. So, all right, I appreciate you guys watching tonight. I hope you learned something from this. Those of you that are looking at this on the recorded version later, please like, subscribe, follow our channel, and get notifications when we go live again next time. Come join the community, join us, jump in the chats. yeah, there's our contact, Twitter, Instagram. I'd love to have you follow us and be part of the community there. We're going to again play a quick video and as an outro, and I'm going to jump into the chat, say hi, and see if anybody has any questions. So hit me up, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.